So let's all praise the Lord. Right, left, right, Abraham had many sons. Many sons had fathered Abraham. Well, I am one of them, and so are you. So let's all praise the Lord. Right, left, right, Father Abraham. Hey, all. Welcome to another Sunday School Live. That is one of my favorite Bible school, Sunday school songs. And so, listen, this is your host, Jermaine Thomas, A.K.A. the Professor. This is another episode of Sunday School Live. Woo! So, I want to just thank you guys for tuning in and tracking with us. And so if you haven't had a chance to check out episode 1, please, when you're done with this episode, you have to go back and listen to episode 1. I really lay out in episode 1 introduction. I tell a little bit about myself. I define what is belief, or at least give us a working definition of the term belief. And then also I shared what I hope to accomplish with Sunday School Live. And so again, I want to just send a special shout out to the Goma family as a whole, Dr. Catherine Toon, and the whole host of other leaders and speakers, Brother Kyle, and a host of others. Listen, I'm excited. I'm a part of the dream team. And Pastor Mike is a part of that family. And if you notice on my page, on my actual page, there's a layout of all the rotating leaders and teachers that do share. Hey, Linda, how you doing? Good evening. Good evening. And as you guys come in, please take the opportunity to like and share. Excuse me. To like and share. What I want to do is to give you guys a book for the holiday season. And so when you like and share, put in the comment section, I shared. And then what that'll do is that'll put your name into a drawing. And then around the holiday season, somewhere close to around Christmas, I actually will do a drawing, a live drawing. And then that person's name that I pick out of a hat, I will gift you a book, preferably Kindle, or if you like me, I'm both. I do Kindle and I do material books, and so sometimes I just like to have my hand on a book. And so we're going to continue with our series and our dialogue about the anatomy of belief. And this is exciting for me because this is one of those passion topics. You ever come across them passion topics? And so this is one of my passion topics to talk about is belief. And it's something to it, right? When you read the Gospels, the central term to Jesus's message. Oftentimes, when we talk about Jesus, we emphasize the cross, but we don't necessarily emphasize the things that Jesus talks about a lot. And so, one of the terms that was central to Jesus's message was repentance. And we understand the term in the definition and context. It means metanoia, which is to mean to change the way you think. And so, over the years, I guess you'd say since the age of enlightenment, there have been profound disciplines that spun out of the age that explored things about the world around us, including, how we're made, the physical anatomy. And so this spun into the various disciplines that we all benefit from today, whether that's psychology, sociology, biology. And so in these episodes, we're going to hit those different spectrums and ideas that surround exploring the anatomy of belief. And so when you look over history and you study these various disciplines, oftentimes they're based on theory and research. And I shared in episode one, my pedigree and my background in social work. And social work is an evidence-based practice. It's based on a lot of human theories and social theories. And when you think about it, what happens is in the scientific method, in that world of science, new researchers come on the scene, and they research some of these theories, and they find, hey, yeah, this theory hit this, but this theory misses this here. And so models of intervention and how we approach the methodology of social work often changes by given research or researcher or teams of research. And so they write consenting arguments and say, well, this is what we need to change in this approach and this methodology. And so what it does is you see the science building off history of science and sometimes making necessary course corrections, if you will. And so a lot of these disciplines, whether it's in the social work arena or psychology arena, we call it the Bible of psychology, is the DSM-5, which gives us highlight a lot of the diagnosis. And so that is based upon years of research and is updated, and it's something. It's not just material to or exclusive to this field of work. You see it in other sciences. You see it in medical science, medical research and breakthrough. And it seems like out of all the disciplines, of building upon work and revisiting old models or revisiting old schools of thought, to enhance it for better intervention. Out of all the disciplines, theology is one of those schools of thought. More often than not, that doesn't necessarily upgrade itself. If it's an old school of thought, we establish it as dogma, we establish it, as biblical law, when it's just thinking in theory around understanding the scriptures. And so I heard a brother say we need an upgrade in our theology, and I think that we do. We can definitely benefit from that. But anyway, getting into the heart of this discussion, hold on for a second. Let me just get in here. I want to recognize those in the comments section. And so, Linda, hey, Linda, thank you again for joining and tracking with us. Howard, hey, how you doing? God bless you. Listen, take the time to let me know where you're tuning in from. Like and share. And again, make post in the comment section. I liked and I shared. And that way I can take your name and put in a drawing, and then I will reach out to you, or you could just tune in when I do the live drawing to keep you guys noticed. And also pay attention to the ticker down there. Uh, this will also be available on YouTube, and eventually going to do a podcast. And with the podcast, I probably do a little things a little different. I'm a visual learner myself, and so with the podcast, people are just listening in. And so there'll be more exclusive material like notes, getting your hands on notes and materials, and different things like that. Again, please go back and watch episode one. It's really a lot of good ground that I covered there in episode one. And so, what I would like to start with is to put this up here and kind of give us an outline and kind of direction I would like to go in this particular episode. So, let me try to clear some of this stuff off, you guys. I'm not too much technically inclined. So, let me see how we can do this and get this stuff off of here so it won't interrupt. Okay, so we'll take the ticker off for now. Okay, and so in the anatomy of belief, I'm looking to go in this particular episode is to talk about core beliefs. And I kind of, again, laid a little bit of that foundation in episode one. And so asking yourself, hey, Marion, I hope I'm saying your name right, you guys. If I'm not saying your name right, I totally apologize. But listen, if you're coming in, like, share, please take the opportunity to tell me where you're coming from. And then when you guys get a chance to, please go back and check out episode one. I give an introduction. I tell a little bit about myself because I'm new to the Goma family. And so I take the opportunity to talk a little bit about myself and give some commentary on that. But listen, I'm excited. This is an opportunity to explore. And so this is a informational show. We're going to invite a host of others on. It's going to take a talk show format given in future episodes. And so this is an opportunity to explore something I think that is foundational for all of us is the anatomy of belief. You know, what goes into our belief system, what shapes our belief system, you know, how we often taken time to just stop and think about the things that we think about. And so hopefully this will provide some tools and some resources for you all to explore that. Again, like I said before, the term that was central to Jesus's message was metanoia, which means to change the way we think. And so, in looking at some of the things that shape our belief, or you know what goes into our core belief, I posted and grabbed a few graphics for you guys to kind of give us a picture, an idea of what we're trying, where I'm trying to go in our commentary, in our dialogue. And so, this image here you'll find let me get back. This to that we can use Joshua and the 12 spies. That's often one of those messages that's often preached when it talks about perceptions and how we perceive ourselves. And the spies went out and they spied the land and they came back, and some came back with a negative report, and they perceive that these people were giants in land. And then there were a few that had a good report saying, listen, we can take this land, we can take them. And so oftentimes, we perceive things in life from a certain perception. And then belief is not just one belief. When you really think about it, it's a conglomerate of beliefs, some contradicting, some negative, but these are the some parts as we begin to dialogue and break down the anatomy of belief. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Jermaine Thomas, A.K.A. the Professor. I'm new to the Goma family. A lot of these names are new. So thank you for tuning in. Please like and share and put in the comment section that I liked and that I shared. Just put in I shared, and then that'll give an opportunity for me to put your name in a drawing and an opportunity to win a free gift. It's a book that I believe is a right now book that people should have in their hands. It's called Myths and Myths Translations. It's by Bishop Jamie Engelhardt. Great, phenomenal book and a great resource. And this is a resource show. I'm going to share a lot of resources. And actually, I got one here, and I'll get to that in a minute. But again, as I was sharing earlier, uh, how the different sciences or the different disciplines and how research and theory and new technology comes along, and it redefines and it reshapes different disciplines in industry, like social work. It's based on theory and research. It's called evidence-based practice. And all of these different disciplines, medical research, medical breakthrough, the sciences, psychology, biology, all of this based upon evidence and research. And it seems like all the other disciplines have made advancement in except for theology. And so, for example, uh, this book here, I'm gonna try to bring it in so you guys can see it. It's called Neurobiology for Clinical Social Work. And so again, the science, the advancement, but the only thing that's antiquated is our theories and our thinking around the Bible and around Scripture. That needs an upgrade. Our theology needs an upgrade, you guys. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So as I continue to track and just break down and talk more about the anatomy of belief, what shapes our worldview, what goes into our belief, and examining that. Beliefs are very powerful, and I said this earlier on episode 1. And so again, if you guys get a chance to, you guys jumping in, please go back and check out episode 1, where I give an introduction and I break down, and define or give us a working definition about what is belief. And it was really, really good. But a lot of times, in exploring our beliefs, uh, we have to ask, what's in our beliefs, or what influence our beliefs. And there's a lot of things and there's a lot of factors, but there are a few that we all may be familiar with, but we often don't think about. And so this is pretty good. I love these different graphics. I grab these graphics because I think they just speak to the point of what I'm talking about. And look at this graphic here, guys. Let me bring this up. We're not often familiar with, but if you study psychology, sociology, or any of those type of disciplines, then that term, you'll be very familiar with that word, social conditioning. And so a lot of the stuff that we believe about ourselves, we believe about the world, was we were predisposed to it. We were conditioned to believe a certain way. We were conditioned to believe in a certain perspective. And so these are the things that are driving forces. And sometimes those beliefs or those core beliefs are not as obvious. So it takes sometimes as a situation or a circumstance that exposes us to a place where it says, "Man, I didn't know I believed like that." And so those are called implicit beliefs or biases. We all have certain set of biases. There's a Venn diagram that exposes that, and I'll get more into that. Like I said, this is just a building up to give us a working definition to certain terms and things like that. And so social conditioning, what also goes into social conditioning, and again, pay attention to these graphics because I think they really just spell out, the points that I'm really trying to drive home, especially here in episode 2. I got another graphic for you guys, and I think that to me, this is really powerful. And so when we go into our beliefs, this is some of the things that comes up, even the negative things. And I think the negative stuff is so obvious that because we get a lot of energy to the negative things and the beliefs about ourselves and the world. And sometimes it's hard to really break through some of these things that become barriers or restraints in our thinking. And it's even to say, when was the last time we really had an original thought? That's just something to think about. But listen, look at this here. Negativity, is just reinforced in the home front. And like I said, in episode one, I talked about my experience, my work experience, especially working in group homes, over 20 years of working in mental health in the social service setting. So I've seen these schemas in operation. You want to change your life. It's not about changing behaviors. And a lot of our approach in Christendom, or in churchianity, I call it, has been to modify behavior and never go beyond and pay attention to the central term that Jesus used about metanoia, about changing the way you think. And so you want to change your life, change the way you think. Dr. Carolyn Leaf talks about 80% of diseases that starts in the body starts in the mind. That happens, that manifests in the body, starts in the mind. It's just something to think about. And so science, neuroscience, research is affirming more and more and more that there's a validity to beliefs, how it impacts our emotional well-being, how it impacts our physical well-being, and how it impacts how we perceive the larger world around us. I mean, again, another classic example um, that we use is Job. What Job believed came upon him. He had this fear, or we say this fear-based belief system. And so there's a lot of science to that. That beliefs can give off a certain energy. Fear gives off and resonate a certain frequency, and things like that. And so exploring this, I don't want this just to be some type of lecture thing. And so, share, interact here. Please feel free to give commentary and give comments. This is an open forum. This is not something solidifying, saying this is absolute truth. This is dogma, and you must adhere. No, this is an exploration show. We're here to explore these truths, not necessarily to give a definitive answer, but to give responses, at least well thought out, objective responses to this subject matter. And then we can flow and respond there. And also to raise awareness on certain subjects and topics. So I'm going to get into this is pretty mild, but we're going to get into some taboo stuff. But again, it's just to explore and expand our awareness and understanding, especially here as we talk about the anatomy of belief. And so these graphics may resonate with you. Many of us may be there. Negative self perceptions, negative beliefs. And as I talked before in these group homes, I remember I shared with a group of young men, and we talked about, and I was teaching them about perceptions. And I had one young man to knock on the wall, right? He knocked on the wall, and I said, "Is it soft or hard?" And he said, "It's hard." And I said, if you have the right tools, and the right equipment, couldn't you put a nice size hole in this wall you perceive to be hard and walk right through? And he was like, yeah, yeah. I said, there are some things in life that we perceive to be hard. But if we have the right tools and the right equipment, we can just break through certain things, or certain things just would not, be a factor in how we perceive things. We're stronger and mightier and powerful than we often give ourselves credit for. And that's the reality of the goodness of God in our lives. As the scripture says, greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. Um, and so, in tracking with me, I hope this makes sense to you guys. I hope this is kind of resonating with you and stirring you up on the inside and getting you excited to explore this topic. And then when I begin to land this plane a little bit, I want to end this segment with a video from this author, this book that I'm going to show you, and I'm gonna read some excerpts out of his book. Again, this is a resource show too. And so any resource that I share, please take the opportunity to go out, buy it, purchase it. There's Kindle. I don't know if this is available on Kindle, but this is a really, really good book here. It's called, it's revised in Spanish, says Change Your Brain, Change Your Life by Daniel G. Amen. And it says the breakthrough program from conquering anxiety, depression, obsessiveness, lack of focus, anger, and memory problems. And it's very practical. It's a lot of it's science that backs it up, but it's very practical. It's in the common man's knowledge and understanding. So you don't have to have studied the field of science and neurology to get a better understanding and insight. It's very practical. And I'm gonna read a excerpt out of here, and then play an actual video from a TED talk that the author did from this book. I love TED talks. Any of you guys love TED talks out there? And so I got some more graphics for us when we talk about what's in our core beliefs. These graphics here, man, just makes you think, and I kind of expound. Let me bring them up here. So don't pay attention to those labels, but that image, just grab that image there for a minute. And just to think about that, just think about that for a minute. What was poured into your belief system, what's at the heart or at the base, of your value system, what shaped that, what impact that. And so a lot of these terms, this is why morality and things like morality is often relative, because what you may deem moral and acceptable in our culture may not be morally acceptable in another culture. And so a lot of that goes into that too, is our culture. What's acceptable in a certain culture may not be socially acceptable in another culture. But again, these are all a part of the constructs. We live in these things. Some people call it the matrix. Like the movie The Matrix is a real good, picture, of some of the concepts or some of the things I'm trying to explore and trying to drive home, and breaking down the anatomy of belief. And so any statements, questions that you guys may have, please take the opportunity and just comment there and say, man, I can identify with this. I've had, toxic beliefs. What are some of the things that you did to come out of some of these toxic belief systems, negative perceptions about yourselves? What awakened in you? What came alive in you? What were you reading? Who you listening to? Something somebody said, you heard something, you heard a teacher teach, or you heard somebody give some commentary, you read a book, and it had a profound impact and effect upon your life. And so, like I said, this is a resource show, information and sharing and exploring certain said truths. And so, this book that I showed you guys, I want to read a couple of excerpts out of here, and I think, and then I'll show a little short video of the author, and then share toward the end and give some more commentary behind what he shared. But listen to this. And this is, he has a clinic, and it says that the summary of the 12 principles uh, the Amen Clinic has, and he says your brain is involved in everything you do and everything you are. When your brain works right, you work right. And when your brain is troubled, you are much more likely to have trouble in your life. Your brain is the most amazing, energy hungry organ in the universe. That's listen, I have shared this before in the first episode. You got those kids, and many of you, all of your parents or grandparents, aunts, uncles, then you get the toddler and he comes in, and you say, well, no, you shouldn't do this. And that the first question that they ask is, why? And so do you see how that thing is innate in us, to ask those why questions? And I talked about how important it is to regain our childlike wonderment of, and to explore truths, and to explore and to get a greater sense of understanding of the world around us by looking within and exploring the world within. Jesus said that the kingdom of God is within us. And so asking the why question, helps us get to the heart of a matter. Asking the why question helps get us, and it defines the purpose of a thing. And I've said this, I said that, God is not intimidated by our why questions. And oftentimes, because of religious constraints and conditioning, no, brother, you're not supposed to question God. And so, but here you see some language in the scriptures where God says, come, let us reason together. So there's this aspect of reasoning, in this awareness with God, that God invites us into this place of exploration, of reasoning and thinking through. Jesus is the logos of God, or what we call, or he's the logic of God. He's the mind of God, the logic of God, the reasoning of God. He unveils, the true heart and nature of the Father. And so logic and reasoning, now logic, when because anything that's too much of anything can be unhealthy, and so you can get so much into that you can reason out any notion and idea, and solely base your life on that. But reasoning is a part of that. We all do it. It's a part of our schema. It's a part of our makeup and how we operate, in life. And so He says your brain is the consistency. Number four, your brain is the consistency of soft butter and housed in a really hard skull with multiple sharp bony edges, ridges, making it easily to injure. Number five, many things hurt the brain. Number six, many things help the brain. Number seven, certain systems in the brain are designed to do certain things. And problems in these systems tend to cause specific symptoms that can benefit from specific treatments. Looking at the brain gives many powerful insights, not possible through listening to symptoms alone. And all psychiatric illnesses are not single or simple disorders in the brain. Each one has multiple types that require unique treatments. One treatment will never work for everyone. And so a lot of times we take these generalized approach in addressing people's symptoms and things in their life. I mean, these generalized approaches and missing the individual aspect, especially if you're familiar with the deliverance movement and how we in church oftentimes, especially in the charismatic circles, how we approach these things. Everything's a demon. Everything is this. No sense of accountability, no sense of the power that we truly have, in really defining what these things are that are negative, that we perceive to be negative in our lives, is usually rooted in mistaken identity and not aware of who we are and who we have always been in the Father. And so 10, brain aging is optional. Now that's deep, right? Just think about that. Brain aging is optional. Work to boost your brain's reserve. Number 11, you can change your brain and change your life. Get it, give it away, keep it forever, and change the world. So these are some of the principles that's in this book. Change your brain, change your life, revise and expand it, and it's really good. So get your hands on that if you're into that thing. You can YouTube the author. But so let me just pivot here as we move toward, like I said, landing this plane. It's about 15-minute clip of this TED talk that this author is having, and I just want to invite you guys into that. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it's informational and raise awareness for you. Again, take the time. Thank you, Linda, Michelle. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all that may watch and tune in later for tracking with me here, Jermaine Thomas, A.K.A. the Professor, on our show Sunday School Live. Take the opportunity to comment and share. Tell me where you're tuning in from. Please feel free to leave comments, commentary, some resources that you found that has been impactful for you. But so I'm gonna introduce this clip here and take myself out the picture, and I hope you guys enjoy it as I have. Okay.
In this talk, I'm going to give you the single most important lesson my colleagues and I have learned from looking at 83,000 brain scans. But first, let me put the lesson into context. I am in the middle of 7 children. Growing up, my father called me a maverick, which to him was not a good thing. In 1972, the Army called my number, and I was trained as an infantry medic, where my love of medicine was born. But since I truly hated the idea of being shot at or sleeping in the mud, I got myself retrained as an X-ray technician and developed a passion for medical imaging. As our professors used to say, how do you know unless you look? In 1979, when I was a second-year medical student, someone in my family became seriously suicidal, and I took her to see a wonderful psychiatrist. Over time, I realized that if he helped her, which he did, it would not only save her life, but it would also help her children and even her future grandchildren, as they would be shaped by someone who is happier and more stable. I fell in love with psychiatry because I realized it had the potential to change generations of people. In 1991, I went to my first lecture on brain SPECT imaging. SPECT is a nuclear medicine study that looks at blood flow and activity. It looks at how your brain works. SPECT was presented as a tool to help psychiatrists get more information to help their patients. In that one lecture, my two professional loves, medical imaging and psychiatry, came together and quite honestly revolutionized my life. Over the next 22 years, my colleagues and I would build the world's largest database of brain scans related to behavior on patients from 93 countries. SPECT basically tells us three things about the brain: good activity, too little, or too much. Here is a set of healthy SPECT scans. The image on the left shows the outside surface of the brain, and a healthy scan shows full, even, symmetrical activity. The color is not important, it's the shape that matters. In the image on the right, red equals the areas of high activity, and in a healthy brain, they're typically in the back part of the brain. Here is a healthy scan compared to someone who had 2 strokes. You can see the holes of activity. Here's what Alzheimer's looks like, where the back half of the brain is deteriorating. Did you know that Alzheimer's disease actually starts in the brain 30 to 50 years before you have any symptoms? Here's a scan of traumatic brain injury. Your brain is soft and your skull is really hard. Or drug abuse. The real reason not to use drugs? They damage your brain. Obsessive compulsive disorder, where the front part of the brain typically works too hard so that people cannot turn off their thoughts. And epilepsy, where we frequently see areas of increased activity. In 1992, I went to an all-day conference on brain SPECT imaging. It was amazing and mirrored our own early experience using SPECT in psychiatry. But at that same meeting, researchers started to complain loudly that clinical psychiatrists like me should not be doing scans, that they were only for their research. Being a maverick and having clinical experience, I thought that was a really dumb idea. Without imaging, psychiatrists then and even now make diagnoses like they did in 1840 when Abraham Lincoln was depressed by talking to people and looking for symptom clusters. Imaging was showing us there was a better way. Did you know that psychiatrists are the only medical specialists that virtually never look at the organ they treat? Think about it. Cardiologists look, neurologists look, orthopedic doctors look, virtually every other medical specialties look, psychiatrists guess. Before imaging, I always felt like I was throwing darts in the dark at my patients and had hurt some of them, which horrified me. There is a reason that most psychiatric medications have black box warnings. Give them to the wrong person and you can precipitate a disaster. Early on, our imaging work taught us many important lessons, such as illnesses like ADHD, anxiety, depression, and addictions are not single or simple disorders in the brain. They all have multiple types. For example, here are 2 patients who have been diagnosed with major depression that had virtually the same symptoms, yet radically different brains. One had really low activity in the brain, the other one had really high activity. How would you ever know what to do for them unless you actually looked? Treatment needs to be tailored to individual brains, not clusters of symptoms. Our imaging work also taught us that mild traumatic brain injury was a major cause of psychiatric illness that ruined people's lives, and virtually no one knew about it because they would see psychiatrists for things like temper problems, anxiety, depression, and insomnia, and they would never look, so they would never know. Here's a scan of a 15-year-old boy who fell down a flight of stairs at the age of 3. And even though he was unconscious for only a few minutes, there was nothing mild about the enduring effect that injury had on this boy's life. When I met him at the age of 15, he had just been kicked out of his 3rd residential treatment program for violence. He needed a brain rehabilitation program, not just more medication thrown at him in the dark or behavior therapy, which, if you think about it, is really cruel. To put him on a behavior therapy program when behavior is really an expression of the problem, it's not the problem. Researchers have found that undiagnosed brain injuries are a major cause of homelessness, drug and alcohol abuse, depression, panic attacks, ADHD, and suicide. We are in for a pending disaster with the hundreds of thousands of soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and virtually no one is looking at the function of their brain. As we continued our work with SPECT, the criticism grew louder, but so did the lessons. Judges and defense attorneys sought our help to understand criminal behavior. To date, we have scanned over 500 convicted felons, including 90 murderers. Our work taught us that people who do bad things often have troubled brains. That was not a surprise. But what did surprise us was that many of these brains could be rehabilitated. So here's a radical idea. What if we evaluated and treated troubled brains rather than simply warehousing them in toxic, stressful environments? In my experience, we could save tremendous amounts of money by making these people more functional, so when they left prison, they could work, support their families, and pay taxes. Dostoevsky once said, "A society should be judged not by how well it treats its outstanding citizens, but by how it treats its criminals." Instead of just crime and punishment, we should be thinking about crime evaluation and treatment. So after 22 years and 83,000 scans, the single most important lesson my colleagues and I have learned is that you can literally change people's brains. And when you do, you change their life. You are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better, and we can prove it. My colleagues and I performed the first and largest study on active and retired NFL
YouTube him, and it's really good. The ending. I'm gonna probably go back and fast forward a little bit so you guys can hear the ending, because I think the ending part is really phenomenal. His statement at the end, but about, he took his relative to go get some help, and he knew that her change can have lasting effect, not just in her emotional and mental health well-being, but that of her children and her family and people that she associated with. And so the science is out there, beliefs and how we perceive the world and how things impact us, or do things physically that impacts the brain. All of those things go into our belief system. He brings out the beauty here. He's right. When if I break a bone, they're going to send me, or if I complain about, a certain pain, they're going to do an X-ray, and they're going to try to assess and see where this is coming from. And then the x-ray is show my bones. But here, oftentimes, like you said, when it comes to the brain, there's no scan, there's no x-ray of the brain, if you will, to explore different areas or regions of the brain that may be overactive or overperforming or underperforming. And that way you can do a different targeted or treatment and approach. And like I said, when it comes to the science, uh, in the fields of science, it's research and breakthrough and things like this that enhance the medical field or the field of psychiatry and its approach and treatment. For people with mental health disorders or cognitive behavior therapy. And we get, like I said, we get into some of these terms. I just wanted to expose you guys to some of this, to some of the conversation that's out there that we're not always privy to. And so this is the heart behind Sunday School Live, is to, I really want to pull back the anatomy of belief, in that word anatomy is really get to the, pull back the bare backbones of things, to define some certain terms, make you aware of certain terms and terminology, to familiarize yourself with these things, not to make us experts, in these fields of study, but to explore these truths that maybe enhance our perceptions about ourselves, our belief system, or you may have a family member or someone suffering from a certain set of condition, or one of these conditions he mentioned. You say, hey, there may be a different approach, toward treatment with a person that has Alzheimer's or a person that has behavioral issues. The behavior is the symptom. We've in the church, have addressed behaviors, or the symptom. The behavior is the symptom. So we want to change behavior, and so we feel preaching harder to the behavior. Sin is going to destroy your life. When the reality is, there's something more substantive that's going on the inside, and it's more internal than it is external. And so, in changing your belief, or seeking resources like this that can help, the brain operate in its more optimal and functional, the way God intended it to work, may be a resource as well. But tuning into shows and watching Goma and listening to present truths, can have an impact in expounding on the finished work of Christ and the reality of what's been given to us because of Christ. Let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus. And so I often ask, well, what was in the mind of Jesus? So that we can identify, that and explore what was in the mind of Christ and be aware of the mind that we have. We have access to the mind of God. We may not always be aware, of things, but the wisdom of God is there. The clarity of God is there. The insightfulness of God is there, to give us the clarity that we need, where things are just genuine, in our intuitiveness of awareness, of understanding, and everything is not based on, on these certain constructs, that we get out of that place of not just having original thought and flow. And then you hear it. There are some things I've heard, the Spirit of the Lord speak to me about, and I had no context for. I had no, because I tried to side it with, my religious context and how I was conditioned religiously. We all, in some aspect, have been conditioned religiously, and so I had no context for it. So there were some things I just had to put on the shelf. But thank God, giving me a heart, openness to learn and to grow and to ask questions. And I shared it in the first episode. There was a lot of these questions that got me in trouble. A lot of questions got me in trouble in Bible study. And even questions even got me kicked out of one church. So just like that child, why? Because the why questions help you. And it wasn't that I was trying to be a troublemaker, or trying to cause havoc in a certain setting. I had a genuine passion. I really wanted to know. They were genuine questions. They wasn't, I wasn't trying to be the smart guy, and disrupt the class or the know-it-all. I really just had a genuine heart. And sometimes people don't know how to take that, and it's okay to say, I don't know. Teachers, leaders that are out there, it's okay to say you don't know instead of trying to force an answer or give an answer, in things. I hope tracking with Sunday School Live, tracking with me. Hope there's something that was shared, something that was stated, and again, looking at these images, there's a point I really wanted to highlight. I'm a fast forward this video. I'm gonna go back and then we can close out in this episode here. And again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Michelle, and others that'll be that liked and shared, and others that's gonna watch and share and even watch the replay when I share it on my page. Or I'm gonna put also in the comment section a link to our YouTube page. Listen, there's a lot of other great content and material there that I hope would empower you, encourage you, but more importantly, challenge you to think. So, or send me a free request, follow my hashtag, Natural Theologian. There's a lot of content even under that hashtag as well. So let me go back here. And there's a last point I wanted to make in something that he says. And I think it's really powerful.
Players. And her doctor told her husband that the cyst was removed. Now, 18 years later, Andrew, who is my nephew, owns his own home, is employed, and patient or therapy would have helped Andrew. When the cyst was removed, his behavior completely went back to normal, and he became the sweet, loving boy he always wanted to be. Now, 18 years later, Andrew, who is my nephew, owns his own home, is employed, and pays taxes. Because someone bothered to look at his brain. He has been a better son and will be a better husband, father, and grandfather. When you have the privilege of changing someone's brain, you not only change his or her life, you have the opportunity to change generations to come. I'm Dr. Daniel Amen.
Wow. That to me, that gave me chills. You know, when you can change a person's belief, or a person can change their belief in awareness of understanding, has the capacity to change their life and to change generations that influences them. Again, what was central to Jesus's term was metanoia, which is to change the way you think. And in our exploring these truths, in having a radical transformation in our awareness of understanding, has the capacity to not just impact our lives, but the lives of our children, our grandchildren, and our children's children for generations to come. And so I hope you had a great time tracking with us here at Sunday School Live. There's other resources and things like this I'll be sharing more and getting into those things, you guys. And just again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, a special shout out to the Goma family, to Dr. Catherine Toon, my brother Kyle, Pastor Mike, and a host of other voices that are here on Goma. Listen, check them out. Look at the schedule. I think the schedule of the different leaders that are here on Goma. Get an opportunity to check them out. I'm just adding a piece to this puzzle, guys. And again, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for tracking with me. This is episode 2 of Sunday School Live, and I'm your host, Jermaine Thomas. And I'm going to go out with my favorite little song here, guys. All right, God bless.